It was supposed to be the happiest day of my life, picking out the final dress alterations. The lace felt soft against my skin. The champagne shimmered under the salon lights, and then Brett's mother, Susan, said the words that shattered everything. 7 words that changed my life forever. You're not good enough for my son. I should have seen it coming. I really should have. Hello everyone, I'm Sarah, and this is the story of how my fiance's mother ruined my life and then desperately begged me to fix it. It's a wild ride full of heartbreak and, ultimately, a kind of twisted justice. Before I dive in, I'd love to know where you're listening from. Drop a comment below and let me know. Brett and I had been together for 3 years. 3 wonderful, seemingly perfect years. We met in college, instantly connecting over our shared love of old movies and terrible puns.
He was kind, funny, and incredibly supportive. I genuinely believed I had found my soulmate. His mother, on the other hand, was a different story. Susan was intense. From the moment she met me, there was a coolness in her eyes, a subtle disapproval that I couldn't quite put my finger on. She always found a way to subtly undermine me, making comments about my family, my career aspirations, even my choice of nail polish. I tried to brush it off, telling myself that she just wanted the best for her son and that maybe I wasn't her ideal choice. But as our wedding day approached, her behavior escalated. Suddenly, she was taking over every aspect of the planning. The flowers were wrong. The venue wasn't elegant enough. The guest list needed to be completely revised. I tried to reason with her, to gently explain that Brett and I had a vision for our special day, but she wouldn't budge.
Darling, she'd say, her voice dripping with condescension, you're young. You don't understand these things. I'm just trying to help. Brett, caught in the middle, did his best to mediate. He'd reassure me that everything would be fine, that we could find a compromise. But whenever his mother was around, he seemed different, quieter, more compliant. I started to feel like I was losing him, piece by piece, to her influence. The breaking point came during a dress fitting, just like I mentioned in the beginning. I had finally found the perfect gown, a simple yet elegant design that made me feel like a princess. Susan, of course, had her opinions. It's far too plain, she sniffed. Brett deserves a bride in something more impressive. I tried to ignore her, but she kept pressing, her voice growing sharper with each comment. Finally, I snapped. Susan, with all due respect, this is my wedding. I'm wearing this dress because I love it, and that's all that matters. That's when she said it. You're not good enough for my son. The words hung in the air, heavy and cruel. I stared at her, speechless, as the blood drained from my face. She continued, her voice laced with venom. Brett deserves someone from a better family, someone with connections, someone who can truly contribute to his future. You're just not it, Sarah. Tears welled up in my eyes, blurring my vision. I turned to Brett, desperately hoping he would defend me, would tell his mother that she was out of line. But he just stood there, silent and avoidant, his face pale. That's when I knew. I knew that Susan had won. I knew that Brett, despite his love for me, would always choose his mother over me.
I walked out of that bridal salon, leaving the dress, the champagne, and my dreams behind. I drove straight to my apartment, packed a bag, and called my best friend Emily. "Can I crash at your place for a while?" I asked, my voice trembling. I can't explain right now. Emily, bless her heart, didn't ask any questions. She just told me to come over, that she'd be waiting. The next few weeks were a blur of tears, sleepless nights, and endless cups of tea. Emily was my rock, listening patiently as I recounted every painful detail of my relationship with Brett and his mother. She let me cry, she let me vent, and she never once told me to just get over it. Breaking up with Brett was one of the hardest things I've ever done. He called me constantly, begging me to reconsider, promising that he would stand up to his mother. But the damage was done. I couldn't trust him anymore.
I couldn't shake the feeling that I would always be second to Susan in his life. I love you, Brett. I said, my voice choked with emotion. But I can't do this. I can't spend the rest of my life fighting your mother for your attention. I deserve someone who will choose me without hesitation. He didn't say anything. He just hung up the phone. After the breakup, I felt lost and adrift. My life had been so intertwined with Brett's that I didn't know who I was without him. I spent weeks wallowing in self-pity, convinced that I would never find happiness again. But slowly, gradually, I started to pick up the pieces. I threw myself into my work, determined to prove to myself that I was capable and successful. I reconnected with old friends, started a new hobby, and even joined a gym. And then something unexpected happened. I got a promotion at work.
All those late nights and extra hours had finally paid off. I was now a senior marketing manager with a significant raise and a corner office. It was a turning point. For the first time in months, I felt a flicker of hope. I realized that my life wasn't over, that I had the power to create a new and better future for myself. A few months later, I met Matt. He was everything. Brett wasn't. Confident, independent, and completely unfazed by Susan. He listened to me, he respected me, and he made me laugh. He didn't try to fix me or change me. He just accepted me for who I was. Dating Matt was like breathing fresh air after being trapped in a stuffy room. He showed me what it felt like to be truly loved and appreciated. He encouraged me to pursue my dreams, supported me through my struggles, and always made me feel like I was enough. Meanwhile, Brett's life was taking a different turn.
I heard through mutual friends that he had lost his job. Apparently, his performance had been slipping ever since our breakup. He was drinking heavily, isolating himself from his friends, and relying heavily on his mother for support. And that's when Susan came crawling back. It started with a phone call. I saw her number pop up on my caller ID and almost didn't answer. But curiosity got the better of me. "Hello," I said, my voice cold. "Sarah, darling," she said, her voice uncharacteristically meek. "I need your help." I raised an eyebrow. "My help? I'm not sure I understand. It's Brett," she said, her voice trembling. "He's not doing well. He's lost his job, he's depressed, and he won't listen to me. I don't know what to do." I felt a pang of sympathy for Brett, but I quickly pushed it aside.
"Susan, I'm sorry to hear that, but I don't see how this concerns me. Brett and I are no longer together. But you're the only one who can help him," she pleaded. "You're the only one who understands him. Please, Sarah, just talk to him. See if you can get through to him." I hesitated. A part of me wanted to help Brett, to see him happy again. But another part of me knew that it was a bad idea. Getting involved in his life again would only bring more pain and drama. "I'm sorry, Susan," I said firmly. "I can't do that. I've moved on, and I suggest you do the same." I hung up the phone, feeling a mixture of guilt and relief. I knew I had made the right decision, but it still stung to hear that Brett was struggling. But Susan wasn't one to give up easily. She started showing up at my workplace, waiting for me in the lobby, begging me to reconsider. She'd corner me in the hallway, her eyes red and swollen, pleading with me to save her son. It was incredibly awkward and uncomfortable. I had to ask security to escort her off the premises on several occasions. I even considered filing a restraining order. Then, she started showing up at my apartment. I'd come home from work to find her sitting on my doorstep, her face etched with desperation. "Please, Sarah," she'd say, "just one conversation, that's all I ask." I refused to engage with her. I'd simply walk past her, unlock my door, and go inside. I knew that if I gave her an inch, she'd take a mile. One evening, I was walking home from work when I saw Susan standing across the street from my apartment building. She was holding a large sign that read, "Sarah, please save my son." I couldn't believe it.
She was publicly humiliating me, trying to manipulate me into getting back together with Brett. I felt a surge of anger and disgust. I marched across the street and confronted her. "Susan, what do you think you're doing?" I demanded, my voice trembling with rage. "This is insane. Leave me alone." She looked at me, her eyes filled with tears. "I'm just trying to save my son," she said weakly. "He's nothing without you." "That's not my problem," I retorted. "You're the one who ruined our relationship in the first place. You pushed him away from me, and now you expect me to fix him? That's not how it works." I turned and walked away, leaving her standing there with her ridiculous sign. I went inside my apartment, slammed the door, and burst into tears. Matt found me a few minutes later, sobbing on the couch.
He held me in his arms, comforting me as I recounted the latest episode with Susan. "That woman is completely out of control," he said, his voice filled with concern. "You need to protect yourself, Sarah. This has gone too far." He was right. I couldn't let Susan continue to harass me. I needed to set some serious boundaries. The next day, I called Brett and told him that I needed to speak to him. We met at a coffee shop, a neutral location where I felt safe and in control. He looked terrible. His eyes were bloodshot, his clothes were rumpled, and he had clearly lost weight. He looked like a shell of the man I used to know. "Sarah," he said, his voice hoarse, "I'm so sorry. About everything. About my mother, about the way I treated you, about everything." "Brett," I said, my voice steady, "I appreciate your apology, but it's too late. I've moved on, I'm happy now, and I'm not going to let your mother ruin my life again." I continued, "I need you to understand something very clearly. I am never going to get back together with you. I am never going to be a part of your life again. You and your mother need to leave me alone. If you don't, I will take legal action." He looked at me, his eyes filled with a mixture of sadness and regret. "I understand," he said quietly. "I'm sorry, Sarah. I truly am. Goodbye, Brett," I said, standing up and walking away. That was the last time I ever spoke to him. I also sent Susan a strongly worded email, telling her that if she contacted me again, I would file a restraining order. She didn't respond, and she never bothered me again. It took a long time to fully heal from the experience with Brett and his mother.
But with the love and support of my friends and family, and especially with Matt by my side, I was able to move on and build a new life for myself. Matt proposed to me a year later, and we had a beautiful wedding, surrounded by the people who truly loved and supported us. Susan, of course, was not invited. Looking back, I realized that the breakup with Brett was the best thing that ever happened to me. It forced me to grow, to become stronger, and to realize my own worth. I learned that I deserved to be with someone who loved me unconditionally, someone who would always choose me without hesitation. And I found that with Matt, he is my rock, my partner, and my best friend. He makes me laugh every day, and he always knows how to make me feel loved and appreciated. My life now is better than I ever could have imagined.
I have a successful career, a loving husband, and a bright future ahead of me, and I owe it all to the fact that I had the courage to walk away from a relationship that wasn't serving me. Sometimes the hardest decisions are the ones that lead to the greatest happiness. Sometimes you have to let go of the past in order to embrace the future. And sometimes you have to realize that you are worth more than someone else's approval. I'm Sarah, and that's the story of how I escaped my future mother-in-law from hell and found true love. And remember, if you like this story, please subscribe to the channel for more.